Welcome to an amazing story that will inspire you and help improve your English skills. My English journey from zero to fluent in 5 months. Hey everyone, my name is Kenji, and I'm 22 years old. I'm from Japan. Just 5 months ago, I couldn't say a full sentence in English. Not even, how are you, without really thinking. I felt completely lost. Today, I want to tell you how I learned English in just 5 months. I didn't take expensive classes, I didn't go to an English-speaking country, and I didn't waste my time on useless methods. This isn't just my story, it's your story too. If you've ever felt sad, stuck, or shy because of your English, keep reading. I was exactly where you are. I promise that if you listen to my whole journey, step by step, you'll know exactly how to make your English better. So, let's go back to the start. My journey didn't begin with motivation. It started with a big problem that changed my life. The moment everything changed, I always wanted to work for an international company. My dream job was to be a web designer at a big tech company. I loved designing websites and I was good at it. I worked hard day and night to be the best. Finally, after many years of hard work, I got my chance. I applied for a big company in the US. The person hiring emailed me, "Congratulations. You are chosen for an interview." I was so excited. I imagined my life in a new country, earning a lot of money, and working with the best people. But then, the interview happened. I remember it like it was yesterday. I opened Zoom, and there were 3 interviewers. All of them spoke English very well. They started talking, and it felt like someone pushed fast forward on their voices. I couldn't understand anything. They asked me the first question, "Kenji, can you tell us a bit about yourself and your experience in web design?" I got scared. I knew the answer in my head, but the words wouldn't come out. I said, yes, I am, web design. I do design many projects good. I am very good." They looked at me. The quiet felt like a knife in my stomach. They asked another question, but I couldn't answer that either. In the end, one of them smiled and said, "All right, Kenji, thank you for your time." I knew what that meant. I had failed. I didn't get the job, not because I wasn't good enough at my job, but because I couldn't speak English. That day, I understood how important English was. It wasn't just a language, it was the key to my dream. And right then, I didn't have that key. I felt ashamed, embarrassed, and angry at myself. For years, I told myself, I don't need English. I'll just be good at my job, and that'll be enough. But now I saw the truth. Without English, I was invisible. That night, I made a decision. I would learn English, and I would learn it fast. My 5-month method begins. Most people, when they start learning English, do one thing first: they pay for expensive classes. But I didn't do that. Why? Because I had already tried them before, and they didn't work. A year ago, I paid for an online English class. The teacher made me remember long lists of words, do grammar exercises, and study boring rules. But after 3 months, when I tried to talk, I still couldn't speak. So I knew that expensive classes were not the answer. If I wanted to learn English fast, I needed something different. I needed a system that worked in real life. And that's when I started my 5-month method, which I will share with you now, step by step. Part 1: The first 15 days. The biggest mistake beginners make is thinking they need more words. I thought the same. I thought if I learn 1,000 words, I will speak easily. But the truth is, I already knew hundreds of words, yet I still couldn't speak. So, for the first 15 days, I didn't study any new words. Instead, I did something much more powerful. I started learning how to use the words I already knew. Here's exactly what I did. I made a survival sentence list. I sat down and thought, what do I actually need to say every day? I wrote 50 simple sentences that I needed in real life. For example, "Hi, how are you? Can you repeat that? I don't understand. I am learning English. I need a coffee, please." Every morning, I read these 50 sentences out loud. Not once, not twice, but 10 times. At first, my tongue felt slow, but after 5 days, these sentences became automatic. I started speaking to myself in English every single day. This is one of the most powerful things I did. Whenever I was alone, I spoke English to myself. For example, when I was in the shower, I said, "I am taking a shower." The water is hot. I feel relaxed. When I made breakfast, I said, "I am making eggs." I like eggs. They are easy to cook. At first, I felt silly, but then I realized this was my private classroom. No one could hear me. No one could judge me. And in just 1 week, my brain started thinking in English. I practiced 5 sentences a day, but with a twist. Every day, I chose 5 sentences from movies or real conversations. But I didn't just read them, I copied them exactly. I repeated them 10 times, but with the same feeling, speed, and sound as the native speaker. This helped me fix my accent and sound natural. By the end of the first 15 days, something changed. I stopped translating in my head. I could say basic sentences without thinking. I felt more confident. But this was just the beginning, because after 15 days, I started the real practice. Part 2: The real practice begins. After 15 days of fixing my biggest mistake, I was finally ready to take the next step. I could say basic sentences without thinking, and I felt more confident. But I knew this was not enough. I didn't want to just say short sentences. I wanted to have real conversations. I wanted to understand native speakers without translating in my head. I wanted to speak easily. So, I created a new plan. This plan would change everything. If you follow it, you will get better faster than you ever thought possible. I realized something important when I tried to speak English. My brain was slow. I knew words, but I couldn't put them together quickly. I needed a way to make speaking feel natural. I started using a method that I now call the question-answer method. This method is simple but powerful. Here's how it works. I asked myself a simple question in English. I answered it immediately without thinking too much. I repeated the process with different answers. For example, I started with an easy question. What did you do today? At first, my answer was short, I worked. But I made myself say more, I worked on my project. I worked on my project for 3 hours. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break. I worked on my project for 3 hours, then I took a break and had some coffee. Every time I answered, I added more details. This trained my brain to think in English and speak without stopping. Another example question: what did you eat for breakfast? First answer, I ate eggs. Then, I ate eggs and toast. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was really hungry. I ate eggs, toast, and a banana because I was really hungry and I love eating a big breakfast. I did this every single day for at least 30 minutes. My speaking speed improved a lot. My sentences became longer, and I stopped translating in my head. Improving pronunciation with the echo technique. One of my biggest problems was how I said words pronunciation. Even when I spoke English, I still sounded like a foreigner. People who spoke English well understood me, but my accent was strong. So, I used the echo technique. This is the best way to make your pronunciation better without a teacher. Here's how it works. I listened to someone speaking English from movies, YouTube, or podcasts. I paused the sound after each sentence. I repeated the sentence exactly the same way, same speed, same sound, same feeling. For example, I took a short video clip from a movie. The person said, "I don't know what you're talking about." I paused and repeated, "I don't know what you're talking about." At first, it felt hard, but after repeating 10 times, my voice started to sound like the native speaker. Another example from a podcast: it was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk. I paused and repeated, "It was a beautiful day, so I decided to go for a walk." I did this every day for 30 minutes. After 1 month, my pronunciation got so much better that even native English speakers started saying, "Wow, your English sounds really natural." Learning new words with the story method. I knew that knowing many words was important, But I also knew that trying to remember word lists doesn't work. So, I needed a better way. I used the story method. Here's how it works. I took 5 new words every day. I created a short story using all 5 words. I read the story out loud 10 times. I used the words in my real conversations. Example: new words: excited, invitation, party, arrive, surprise. My story: I was very excited because I received an invitation to a big party. When I arrived at the party, I got a huge surprise. It was my birthday party. I did this every day. After 3 months, I had learned over 1,000 new words without trying to memorize anything. Thinking in English. One of the biggest problems learners have is that they think in their first language first, then translate into English. This makes speaking slow and unnatural. So, I trained my brain to think in English. Here's how. I described everything around me in English. Example: when I walked outside, I said in my mind, the sky is blue. The weather is hot. I see people walking. That man is wearing a red shirt. I asked myself questions and answered in English. Example: what am I doing right now? I am sitting in a chair, drinking coffee, and writing in my notebook. I wrote my daily journal in English. Every night, I wrote about my day in English. At first, I wrote simple sentences, but after 1 month, my writing became more natural. After a few weeks, I noticed something amazing: I was no longer translating. English words came naturally into my mind. My golden rule: speak English every day. One more thing I did was simple but powerful: I made a rule. Every day, I had to speak English for at least 2 hours. No excuses. If I had no one to talk to, I talked to myself. If I didn't have time, I spoke while doing daily things like cooking, cleaning, or walking. If I felt lazy, I reminded myself, English is my future. I cannot quit. Part 3: my final breakthrough. Now that I had the habit of listening and repeating, I wanted to push myself further. But I also realized something very important: just listening and speaking wouldn't be enough if I didn't understand the grammar and structure of English properly. I didn't want to make mistakes that could confuse people, and I definitely wanted to sound more natural. I started observing how native speakers put their sentences together. Every time I heard a sentence, I didn't just repeat it, I asked myself, why is this sentence built like this? For example, I heard people say, I have been learning English for 5 months, but in school, I had learned, I am learning English for 5 months. That was my first big realization: the English we learn in school is often different from the English people actually speak. So, I started looking into the differences. I learned about how verb tenses are used in real life. When do people use have been learning? Why do they say, I have been learning, instead of I am learning? I found that small details like these made a huge difference in sounding natural. I wrote down common sentence structures and tried using them in my daily practice. One of my biggest challenges was small words like on, in, and, at, prepositions. On the bus, but in the car. Why? At night, but in the morning. Why? I kept a small notebook and wrote down confusing prepositions with examples. Whenever I had questions, I looked for answers online or listened to how native speakers used them. To make it even better, I started writing a daily diary in English. Every night, I wrote about my day. At first, my writing was very simple. Today I went to work. I was tired. I ate pizza. It was good, but I wanted to improve. So, I asked myself, how do native speakers write? I read blogs, books, and news articles, and I noticed how they structured their sentences. Then, I tried to copy that style in my diary. Shadowing and active movie watching. One thing that really made my learning faster was shadowing. I found videos of native speakers, put on headphones, and repeated every word right after them, trying to match their speed and how they spoke. I did this for at least 20 minutes a day. In just a few weeks, my pronunciation got much better. Another trick that helped me was watching English movies with subtitles. But instead of just watching, I paused after every sentence and repeated it. I focused on how they said words, their tone, and the rhythm of their speech. Slowly, my English started sounding more natural, overcoming fear and gaining confidence. At this stage, I realized something important: English isn't just about words and grammar, it's also about confidence. Many people know English but are too scared to speak. I made a decision I would not be afraid of making mistakes. I started speaking to people in English whenever I could, at work, at the store, with friends. I spoke even when I wasn't sure. And I noticed something surprising: people understood me, even if I made small mistakes. They didn't laugh at me. This gave me the confidence to keep going. But then I faced my biggest fear: talking to native English speakers. I was terrified that they wouldn't understand me or that I would stop speaking. So, I came up with a plan. I prepared 10 common conversation topics and practiced them every day. How was your day? What do you do for work? What's your favorite food? I practiced answering these questions smoothly. Then, I took the leap. I joined an online group where people from different countries practiced English. At first, I was nervous, but soon I realized everyone was there to learn, just like me. I made friends from different countries, and we practiced together. This not only made my English better but also made learning fun. My dream job and future. As I reached the final stage of my English learning journey, I felt a strong confidence growing inside me. I was no longer the same person who had been rejected because of poor English skills. I had changed myself, step by step, through consistent effort, practice, and the right mindset. Now, I want to share the last and most important lessons I learned so that you too can speak English easily one day. One day, I was speaking to myself in the mirror, as I had done so many times before. But this time, something was different. I wasn't stopping. I wasn't translating in my head. The words were coming out naturally. It felt like magic, but in reality, it was the result of months of effort. That same day, I decided to test how much I had improved by having a deep conversation with a native speaker. I joined an online meeting where people from different countries talked about different topics. At first, I was nervous, but I reminded myself, I've worked too hard to doubt myself now. And then I spoke. The words came out clearly, confidently. I didn't struggle to find the right words. I understood what others were saying without feeling lost. People listened to me, nodded their heads, and even asked me questions. It was an amazing moment. That was the day I knew I could speak English easily. 5 months after I started my journey, I applied for my dream job again. This time, I wasn't the same Kenji who had walked in nervously months ago. I wasn't the guy who stopped, who felt small, who couldn't find the right words. No, this time I walked into that interview room with confidence. I sat in front of the interviewer, not as someone who feared English, but as someone who had mastered it. I spoke clearly. I answered every question easily. I wasn't just speaking English, I was truly using it well. And I could see it in their eyes. They were impressed. Not just with my language, but with my effort, my persistence, my change. A few days later, I got the call, and I will never forget that moment. Kenji, congratulations. You got the job. For a second, I couldn't believe it. My dream job. The same company that said no to me before. But now they wanted me. My starting salary was 600,000 a month, much more than I had ever imagined earning. I just stood there, holding my phone, shaking, my eyes full of tears. The first thing I did? I called my parents. Mom, Dad, I did it. My mother started crying on the other end. My father, a man who rarely shows feelings, simply said, "We always knew you could." And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just doing this for me, I was doing it for them too. With my first salary, I bought my father a beautiful watch, something he had always wanted but never bought for himself. For my mother, I bought a gold necklace. She had given up so much for me, for our family, and now it was my turn to give back. When I gave them the gifts, they refused at first. "We don't need anything, son," they said. But I shook my head. "No, this is my way of saying thank you. Thank you for believing in me, even when I didn't believe in myself." And that was the moment I understood it was all worth it. Every struggle, every late night, every moment of feeling sad, every time I felt like giving up, it was all worth it. Key lessons from my journey. Now, let me share the most important things I learned in my journey that helped me speak English easily in just a few months. Your thinking is everything. Most people fail to learn English because they believe they can't. I used to think the same way. But the moment I changed my thinking, everything changed. I told myself, English is not difficult. I can learn it just like any other skill. I stopped saying, I am bad at English, and started saying, I am getting better every day. If you think you can't do it, you won't. But if you believe you can, you will find a way. Surround yourself with English. I made English a part of my daily life. I changed my phone's language to English. I watched only English videos. I listened to English songs, even if I didn't understand all the words. I followed English-speaking people on social media. Every day, I was giving my brain English. I also made sure to speak and think in English. Whenever I looked at an object, I would say its name in English. If I saw a car, I would say, that's a blue car. It's moving fast. Small things like this helped me learn new words naturally. Speak without fear. Many people are afraid of making mistakes, but mistakes are part of learning. I used to be scared of speaking, but then I realized native speakers don't care if you make mistakes. They appreciate your effort. So, I made myself speak. I spoke to shopkeepers in English. I asked strangers for directions in English. And I even started talking to myself in English whenever I was alone. The more I spoke, the better I became. Listen actively and shadow. Listening is just as important as speaking. I trained my ears to understand spoken English by listening to English podcasts, audiobooks, and conversations. But I didn't just listen quietly. I practiced shadowing. Shadowing means listening to a sentence and repeating it immediately, trying to sound exactly like the speaker. This helped me make my accent and speaking flow better. Learn new words smartly. At first, I tried to remember long lists of words, but I quickly realized that was useless. Instead, I learned words in groups of words. I focused on phrases instead of single words. For example, instead of remembering the word happy, I learned phrases like, I feel so happy today, and that movie made me really happy. Learning words in groups made it easier to remember and use words naturally. Grammar without books. I didn't spend hours studying grammar books. Instead, I learned grammar naturally by listening and speaking. When I made a mistake, I wrote it down and fixed it myself. For example, I used to say, he go to school. When someone corrected me, I understood the correct sentence, he goes to school. The best way to learn grammar is by using the language, not by remembering rules. Be consistent, not perfect. Some people try to learn everything perfectly before they start speaking. That's a mistake. I didn't wait until I was perfect. I started speaking from day one, even when I only knew a few words. I used them. I made a rule, every day, I will do something in English. Some days I spoke for 10 minutes. Some days I wrote a short paragraph. Some days I listened to a podcast. The key was doing it regularly. Even on days when I felt lazy, I still did something. You don't need expensive classes. You don't need a perfect place to learn. You just need a strong desire and a promise to practice every day. Imagine yourself 6 months from now, speaking English easily and confidently. Imagine the chances that will come your way. Imagine how proud you will feel. Start today. Speak, listen, practice, and never give up. Your future self will thank you. This is not just about learning English, it's about changing your life. And now, I want to say something to you. If I can do it, you can do it too. It doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter how bad you think your English is. What matters is that you start today, right now. I know it's hard. I know it feels impossible sometimes. But trust me, the only thing between you and speaking English easily is doing it regularly. Stop doubting yourself. Stop making excuses. Surround yourself with English. Speak, listen, read, write every single day. Make mistakes. Learn from them. Get better. Because here's the truth: the pain of working hard is short, but the pain of wishing you had done something lasts forever. So, what will you choose? Choose to work hard. Choose to grow. Choose success. Your journey to speaking English easily starts now. If this story made you feel inspired, like this video and subscribe to my channel. I'll be with you every step of the way. Let's do this together.
Thank you for listening. Please subscribe this channel and enjoy learning English.